really should respect your elders.
I don't respect anybody. It's over. Give up or she's gonna swab the deck with your butt.
A change of face and a change of pace. Today's adventure sees our beloved heroes play musical bodies with Charmcaster, making her last meaningful appearance / return here, to avenge her previous defeat at the hands of Gwen and Ben. However, we'll see by the end of this escapade that her arrival proves fortuitous for everyone else but her.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
I've mentioned in recent reviews that Gwen has been stuck in a holding pattern with little to offer than her brains and often needing to stay out of the fight or be saved. Well, that's no longer the case, as our Anodite ass kicker unlocks her own master control thanks to our dear old Hope. We start this one on a tour of Salem, Massachusetts, with Max insisting that both Gwen and Ben dress the part for the experience when suddenly a fire breaks out that Ben goes to stop a stinkfly while Max and Gwen do damage control below and stop a horse and carriage rampaging through the streets.
I dunno. I think that's a bit dodgy, mate.
As Gwen gets a handle on the horse, the fire spooks it again and tosses her across the street right as Charmcaster appears and catches Ben in a bubble designed for a transference spell that will allow her to take over his body and gain the powers of the Omnitrix.
I am not a piece of shit.
Well, yeah, but you're a little bitch.
However, Gwen's ejection from the carriage pushes Ben out and leads to her and Charmcaster swapping bodies instead. Once the kerfuffle is done, Gwen awakens to the realization that she's in the body of her mortal enemy, as Charmcaster tries to play this another way by convincing Max and Ben for now that they are who they always were.
I'm seeing double here.
Gwen as Charmcaster gets carted off by the police and sent to a young woman's prison, where she's quickly given a tour of how things work, but unknowingly sets off various tricks from Charmcaster's bag and uses her spellbook to distract the other guards and prisoners that later serve to get her out of the prison. Before then though, she makes a tenuous relationship with two other juvies that agree to help her escape so long as they can go with her. As Gwen and the pair make a break for it, she traps the other juvies for being unwilling to give up the life of crime, and as they're carted off, they promise that this isn't over if she comes back, referring to, of course, Charmcaster.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
Meanwhile, Charmcaster as Gwen pries for information regarding the functionality of the watch, which confuses Ben, stating she should already know this, but she twists it to sound as though she's genuinely curious about him and his life. However, that facade quickly fucks off when Ben does his usual shtick of insulting his cousin that she doesn't take too kindly to, and almost breaks his ankle for it.
Well, this stinks.
As an apology for this though, she says she'll cook for everyone provided she can get the ingredients that she needs, attempting to create another transference spell.
Never learn.
They head to the local market where Charmcaster's hunting for the exotic components that she needs that has Max in excitement, but a few thugs steal the truck with her ingredients sat on it, leading to both her and Ben as Diamond Head making a save. And as they catch up to the robbers, Charmcaster plays a horror character for a moment, just popping up in places and leaves the thugs covered in live lobsters.
Holy shit.
After all this, everyone returns to the rust bucket, with Ben being caught alone by a returning Gwen, who convinces him that she is in fact his cousin by insulting him.
No one else has a better idea, so fuck it.
Which allows Charmcaster to reveal what truly happened, and before subduing everyone, she tries to merge with Ben once again, only this time all three are caught inside the bubble, with Hope returning to her own body and Ben and Gwen switching instead.
Which son is this one? There's so fucking many.
And we begin to wrap up this one with the gang tied on a ship near the docks, with Charmcaster concocting one last attempt to merge with Ben for the watch, whilst Gwen creates a plan to escape and take her head on. They manage to get out and confront Charmcaster, getting a sudden appreciation for each other's abilities, only for Charmcaster's last try undoing Ben and Gwen's change instead, allowing them to utilise their own skills to take her down. And we close on the group leaving, while Charmcaster's introduced to the juvies that Gwen met earlier, delivering on the promise that they made.
There's something on your face! It was pain!
Well, it took a while, but our girl finally got some powers. The only way is up from here for our favourite little ninja, and the journey Gwen undergoes is quite the spectacle. I mentioned in the intro that she's the Anodite ass kicker, and I meant that in reference to her heritage and what she'll go on to embrace as the show progresses. So a spoiler warning is in order here, I think, but in Ben 10 Alien Force it's revealed that Gwen is descended from a species known as Anodites, that are naturally mana-based creatures and have the potential to both power and end a planet if they so wish. We are introduced to her lineage when we meet Ben and Gwen's paternal grandmother, Verdona, who Max got freaky with.
What do we have here? I got my fingers crossed for a little freaky dinky.
And from there, she gave birth to their sons, Carl and Frank, Ben and Gwen's fathers respectively. However, after multiple returns to Earth during Max's time as a plumber and thereafter, she saw no signs of inheritance until meeting Gwen during the events of Max's disappearance. When Ben, Gwen and Kevin meet Verdona, she's an example of an Anodite's potential on the female side, proving to be immensely powerful and can easily overcome all the gang's respective powers with ease, including the might of the Omnitrix, and is only stopped when Gwen unleashes her true form and confesses that she loves her life on Earth and won't leave her family or Ben and Kevin. This revelation comes as a shock to Charmcaster later on when they team up to aid in the liberation of Legerdemain during their war against Agregor, where she feels it's unfair that she had to hone her craft through training and preparation compared to Gwen's birthright. However, for the degree of power Gwen could harness, she is decidedly stuck at an impasse where she's intelligent enough to understand more of her inherited nature but ultimately doesn't want to.
Strong enough to have it all.
Too weak to take it!
Ultimately through fear of becoming too powerful or incapable of compassion toward other life forms, which is a noble gesture from her and fitting with the character she is, but if my memory serves me right, we do witness her go through a few moments of weakness in a similar fashion to a Jedi conceding to the dark side.
Excellent. Everything is going as planned.
The reason I bring this up is because Charmcaster mentions that Gwen possessed enough mana for her to be able to conjure the necessary energy to project the spells that she did, whilst her consciousness occupied her body, which trails off into everything I've just outlined into Gwen's future, and I think it was an interesting setup, and I do wonder if this was something the writers always considered for her, along with her nemesis being a sorceress. Anyway though, for the final entry to Charmcaster's journey that stands as personal to her conflict with power and the beliefs that she was taught surrounding it, we have to consider a possibility here for her trajectory too that makes me question her side in this. She's portrayed as a villain here, and given how she chooses to tackle this conundrum with acquiring the watch, the reason she might be attempting to collect this in addition to her own power set is due to her father. I might be misaligning the means and ends here, but in Ultimate Alien we see her return to Legerdemain in the fight against Agregor. Ben and the gang go to pursue him for a piece of the map of Infinity, but she stays to cover their exits from Legerdemain and wishes to cast peace across her land by destroying Adwaita, with our heroes promising to return and aid her in uniting the dimension once more when the job is done. And they do just that sometime after the war with Agregor. However, we see that a long life mission for her was to be reunited with her father, who was murdered during Adwaita's hostile takeover, which left Hex and her scurrying and have been siphoning little drabs of power where they can for themselves ever since. However, Hex was doing it for reasons, whereas Charmcaster might have had an ulterior motive for consuming such power, which she achieves toward Ultimate Alien's conclusion at the expense of all life in Legerdemain, including Ben, Gwen and Kevin, and the end result is her father is resurrected, but he wants her to undo what she did to bring him back, and she does so, but remains in exile following this, beginning to grieve for the loss properly, rather than lashing out with antagonistic behaviour or swinging for Ben and the group again.
I want my family back.
Okay.
Give me back my family.
Get off me!
It all adds up in my mind that much of her behaviour throughout the classic series is simply to do with loss and never processing her feelings properly. Plus, the role model she had was hardly the fitting mentor for an adolescent sorceress with the world at her fingertips.
He's got a point.
It makes this entire debacle rather interesting in retrospect as you start to wonder whether she would have used the watch in some other way to access Legerdemain and reclaim her world from Adwaita. So as you can see, the girls are linked to each other with compelling reasons for using their magics the way they do, which serves the narrative going forward in their feud, but as for everything else in this one, it all plays second fiddle to the war between the girls. Ben was solely comedic foil and Max was practically non-existent, but the body swapping did make for some interesting ideas and helped Ben and Gwen grow an appreciation for each other's abilities whilst adding levity to an otherwise unsettling situation. The practicality to Ben's aliens is becoming more and more surprising from this, with Diamond Head creating shard ramps to propel himself, Stinkfly becoming an effective extinguisher, and Cannonbolt being able to maneuver objects in ball form. Charmcaster was placed in a rather unnerving position, giving Gwen a creepy horror movie vibe throughout this, like we saw during her possession from Ghost Freak, and that helped to enhance the tension, with Gwen becoming a new skin in for Charmcaster to wear. But Gwen did get a taste of what she's been missing out on for so long when she was able to throw a few of Charmcaster's knickknacks around and test the waters of becoming an all-powerful sorceress in her own right, and offer more assistance in the future wars ahead, starting with the acquisition of Charmcaster's book. Otherwise though, the pacing was delightful, the action was solid, location was fitting, and the atmosphere surrounding this title was dark, but kept light-hearted despite the concept, and continues to prove why the Gwen-centric episodes are some of the best. Anyway though, that's all I've got for this week. I appreciate you stopping by. If you like this, then please leave a like and be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified whenever I upload. And until next week everyone, take care, and I'll see you soon.